Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and I hope you're all sitting down. I don't want to shock you here, so make sure you're comfortable, make sure you've got somewhere soft to fall onto, because I'm going to tell you something astonishing. You see, it appears that perhaps the Tory party don't know what they're doing, and they've got a policy that they haven't thought out. And indeed, it's so bad that one person's saying one thing and another person's saying another thing. And these two things are very, very different because nobody has a clue what is going on. I know, stunning, isn't it? How a failed party, 14 years in power, haven't sorted their game face out with 2 weeks left before they're consigned to oblivion. And yet that is the strange case of the Tories and the National Service Plan. Because Rishi came up with this big light bulb moment, bing! And it's failed because he didn't think it through. And it is Grant Shapps, a man of many names, who has come out and basically said, no, Rishi, you're talking rubbish. Everything you say is a lie. This is the second time in as many days Grant Shapps has come out and attacked Rishi and attacked his own party. Is Grant Shapps looking to become leader? Seems odd. Leader of what, though? A failed party. Not good for your long-term prospects, is it, Grant? Let's have a look to see why there's so much infighting, confusion and sheer upbuggeredness within the Tories. Here goes. Now, this is in the Indie today, and it's just a weird story, but it's just desperate how they don't know what they're doing. Sorry, Sunak under fresh pressure over National Service Plan as Tories accused of making it up as they go along. And wait till you get to this, because it is just mind-blowing how they can get this so bad. Defence Secretary Grant Shapps has been accused of plunging the promise into chaos with multiple TV appearances in which he appears to change course on how the military aspect would be implemented. Of course, him being defence, he would be the one with the say, assuming they won. Never going to happen. Anyway, it is cracking. They really haven't got a clue. The Conservatives are facing fresh questions over Rishi Sunak's flagship national service policy amid increasing confusion on how the scheme works. Defence Secretary Grant Shapps has been accused of plunging the promise into chaos with multiple TV appearances. Shadow Defence Secretary John Healey has written to Mr Shapps demanding answers about whether the scheme is fully costed, it isn't, fully funded, it isn't, deliverable, not anymore, and clearly set out to the public. It's not even been clearly set out to the Cabinet. How the hell are we supposed to know? He said ministers are making it up as they go along and call the plan a distraction from their failures in defence over 14 years. It's a disaster in the making. It truly is. And of course, it's because they were desperate. It's because they literally have no ideas. They've run out of ideas and they're clutching at straws. And it's like a scene from Yes, Prime Minister. It's just a joke, these people. In a letter seen by The Independent, long-serving Labour MP said Mr Shapps had thrown the general election pledge into confusion and called for him to come clean. Well, he could start by coming clean on which name he uses every time he does anything. That would make a change, wouldn't it? The Tory Manifesto sets out that every 18-year-old in the UK will be given a choice between a year of civic service or military service. No, it doesn't work like that. It promised a year-long full-time placement in the armed forces or cyber defence for 30,000 18-year-olds, while others will be forced to volunteer for one weekend each month with organisations such as the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, so they can bring in even more immigrants, I imagine. Now, the military service option promises to be competitive and paid, so our armed forces recruit and train the brightest and the best, taking up much of the estimated £2.5 billion cost of the policy. But, and here we go, last week Mr Shapps plunged the policy into chaos by claiming that 18-year-olds will only take placements in the armed forces for 25 days a year. 5 working weeks. That's not a year's placement, is it? It's not the year-long placement originally promised. He told ITV's Good Morning Britain, it's not as you presented 30,000 people over an entire year, it's 25 days a year for those 30,000. So they'll probably do them, 25 for this 5 weeks, 70 for this 5 weeks, 70 for this 5 weeks, and so on. So it'll be a little 5-week basic training course but at least it gets them started for when we are finally invaded by the boat people. Speaking on the same programme a week later, Mr. Shapps said that he was referring specifically to the accommodation element. He added that those taking part would not need to be in accommodation for the year, but for 25 days of training. Well, if you've got someone who's going to go into the military and they don't have a military base near them, how are they going to sleep? What are they going to do? Travel 30, 40 miles a day each way just to go and pretend to be little boy soldiers? That isn't going to happen. And what about the discipline? They need to be in there. If you're going to put these in and do a full basic training for these kids, they need to have accommodation, and they need the big shouty sergeant coming in at 5:30 a.m. Hands off cocks, hands on socks. Get up, you horrible smelly lot. And then they take you for a run. Quick, marathon in boots before breakfast. Anyway, Mr. Healy said the claim raised several questions, most importantly what the service personnel would do for the remaining 340 days of the year when they do not have accommodation. God, is that Healy? He looks like the Nosferatu as well, doesn't he? Him and John Swinney in a look-alike competition. They both look like each other, don't they? Anyway, he also demanded to know the difference between the 25-day training course for 18-year-olds and the 14-week basic training course required of all other recruits. After that 25-day training course, what happens to them for the rest of the 12 months in service? He added, the confusion you have created has raised serious questions as to what level of involvement there has been in the design and costing of this proposed scheme among ministers and officials at the Ministry of Defence. And if they do this scheme, here's a little aside, if they do this scheme, do they count that as having served in the military and thus eligible for military discounts for joining, say, the British Legion, for getting your blue light card, which I have. Gentlemen, ladies, gentlemen, if you've ever been in the forces, you've heard of the blue light discount card. If you've been in the forces, you're eligible. It's not just blue lights as in fire, ambulance, working in the NHS and things like that. If you've been in the armed forces, you also can get your card. Even if you've retired, you're a veteran, you're eligible. Go do it. Saves you a fortune. Especially the best one's Aldi, because they give you extra things on your Aldi card. Public service announcement. Thank you. Anyway, they said this is the flagship policy of the Conservative Manifesto, the very first announcement that Rishi Sunak made during the election campaign. So you would expect that the government would be absolutely clear on it. It's just a joke, isn't it? It is, and I'm not going to go through the rest of it. The military don't want it. The military say either you get them in for the 3-year minimum commitment so we can train them properly and give them the requisite skills, not just the basic square bashing skills, but actually get out, give them a trade training, get them to a regiment and build up the armed forces properly. Bring in 30,000 would be happy with that. Or don't bother at all. The last thing you want is national service from recruits who don't actually want to be there. Give them the funding, build the military up, bring in 30,000 raw volunteer recruits who want to do it, and give them a damn good trade. And that's the secret. It worked for me. I did all the courses. I did all the clerical courses when I was in the army. Helped me, set me on my way. And you get other people that get engineering courses. You get, like mechanics courses. There's all sorts of other courses. You got bricklaying. All the trades are in there. It's an education as well as the service element. It's fantastic. Anyway, I'm not a recruiting sergeant. I'm just saying my experience, but that's how it is. But yeah, he's right. They haven't funded it. They haven't thought it through. Grant Shapps is probably more correct, I think, than Rishi Sunak. But it goes to show that these bright ideas they have are just absolutely mindless. It's no wonder the Tories are screwing themselves over, isn't it? Anyway, coming up. It is a sure sign of the desperation of the party that they're putting forward into their manifesto ideas written on the backs of envelopes that haven't been costed, that haven't been thought out, that just sound good. And that's all they've got, soundbite politics. It doesn't really matter. They know they're not going to win. They could put anything they like in their manifesto. It just isn't going to happen. The manifesto that we really need to be scared about is the Labour one, because that is going to be put in and done in full. There'll be no controlling it. There's not enough of an opposition, and it's going to be awful. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Do please hit the subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.